Today, we're really going to dig into this whole remote work thing.
It's everywhere you look these days, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it, but what's the real deal?
Right. Is it all it's cracked up to be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we asked you guys to send in your questions, articles, any data you could find, and you did not disappoint. We're diving into your deep dive today to give you the full picture.
I love it. Let's get into it.
Okay, this first article is from someone who's been working remotely since 2017.
Oh, wow. So even before the pandemic made it so common.
Yeah, long before it was the norm. And one thing they emphasize is the importance of still having those face-to-face interactions, even if it's just occasionally.
That's interesting because you might think, oh, remote work, you're never going to see your coworkers. But this person's saying it's more about finding that balance.
It's about being intentional, right? Making time for those in-person connections when it matters most.
Exactly. Okay, but can we talk about the perks for a second? I mean, no commute, more time with family. That's huge.
Huge. I know I would kill for an extra hour in my day.
Mm-hmm.
This article also mentioned healthier eating habits, which I totally get.
Oh, absolutely. When you're not relying on takeout or whatever's in the office vending machine, you have more control over your schedule, your meals, everything.
It's like you get a few hours of your life back each day. Seriously, though, this article also highlighted some key things you need to be successful with remote work.
Yeah, you can't just roll out of bed and be productive, right?
Well, maybe some people can.
Some people can, not me. But having that dedicated workspace, even if it's just a corner of your living room, it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's like mentally shifting into work mode, even when you're not leaving the house. And, of course, reliable internet.
Oh, don't even get me started. Trying to have a Zoom meeting with a bad connection is like my worst nightmare.
The anxiety is real. But enough about personal experiences. We've got some data to dig into, too.
Yes. Let's talk numbers. Did you know that 1 in 5 workers is already working remotely?
1 in 5. Wow, that's higher than I thought.
It is, and it's just the beginning. By 2025, it's projected to be almost a quarter of the entire American workforce.
Wow, that's a huge chunk of people. Companies can't ignore a trend this big, right? They've got to adapt.
They do. And it seems like employees have spoken loud and clear about what they want. A whopping 98% want to work remotely at least some of the time.
98%? Are we serious? That many people?
That's what the data says.
I mean, I knew it was popular, but that's almost everybody.
It is. Flexibility and work-life balance, those are non-negotiables now.
Yeah, it's not just a nice perk anymore. It's what people expect.
Right, and companies are having to adjust.
Big time. This is really changing everything.
It really is. And you know what else is interesting? 16% of companies have already gone fully remote.
16%. So it's
Yeah.
not just a possibility. It's already a reality for a lot of people.
Exactly. Now, obviously, that varies by industry.
Right, like some jobs just can't be done remotely.
Exactly. The article specifically mentioned IT and marketing as fields that are adapting quickly to remote work.
That makes sense. I feel like we see a lot of remote job postings for those types of roles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, roles like software engineering or customer service, they lend themselves pretty well to a remote setting.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to be in an office to get that kind of work done.
And this is just the beginning, right? We're looking at data from now, but in 5-10 years.
Who knows what the workplace will even look like?
Right. Technology is going to keep evolving, making remote collaboration even easier and more sophisticated.
It's pretty exciting when you think about it. Okay, so we've established that a lot of people are working remotely, but what does that actually look like? Who are these remote workers?
Well, according to the data, the biggest group is between 24 and 35 years old.
So younger generations are really leading the charge here.
They are. In fact, 39% of remote workers in that age group are working remotely full-time, and another 25% are doing it part-time.
Wow, so it's not just a side hustle for them, it's their main gig.
Exactly. This generation grew up with technology, they value flexibility, and they're not afraid to go after it.
Companies are going to have to adapt if they want to attract top talent.
It's a whole new world of work, right?
Totally. No more commuting for hours, no more being chained to a desk from 9 to 5.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Okay, so we've talked about the good,
Yeah.
but there's got to be some downsides to remote work, right? It can't all be sunshine and roses.
Well, as with anything, there are definitely challenges.
Like what?
Well, remember how we were talking about work-life balance? Sometimes that can be harder to maintain when your home is your office.
Oh, I could see that.
It's easy to get caught up in work and suddenly it's 8 p.m. and you're still answering emails.
Yeah, setting boundaries can be tough when your work is always right there.
Exactly. And then there's the social aspect.
Right. You miss out on those spontaneous conversations, the office camaraderie.
Some people really thrive in that environment, so working remotely can feel isolating for them.
Yeah, it takes more effort to stay connected when you're not physically together.
Hmm.
It's true, you don't realize how much you rely on those little interactions until they're gone.
Right, those quick chats in the hallway can clear up so much confusion.
Oh, tell me about it. Sometimes an email just doesn't cut it, you know?
Exactly. You need that tone of voice, that body language to really understand where someone's coming from.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, remote work has its perks, but it's definitely not without its challenges.
That's why it's so important to figure out what works best for you.
Right, it's not one size fits all.
Exactly. Maybe it's a hybrid model, maybe it's fully remote, maybe it's something in between. The point is, you have options, and you should advocate for what you need to thrive.
I love that. It's about having the power to design your own work life. So what does this all mean for the future? Is the traditional office dead? Are we all going to be working from beach bungalows in Bali?
Well, I wouldn't rule out those Bali bungalows just yet.
A girl can dream, right?
Always. But seriously, I don't think it's as simple as office versus remote anymore.
So you're saying it's more nuanced than that?
Exactly. It's going to be much more fluid, more dynamic. We'll probably see a mix of in-person and remote interactions, depending on the work itself and what people prefer.
So it's less about where you work and more about how you work.
And how you create a work environment that's flexible, adaptable, and ultimately more human.
I love that. This has been such a fascinating conversation. We've covered so much ground today, from personal stories to all those stats. It's been incredible.
Absolutely. Really diving deep into this remote work revolution.
And most importantly, what it means for you, our listeners. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, shoot.
We've talked a lot about the big picture here, but what can you do right now, today, to improve your own work life?
That's a great question. It's easy to get caught up in all the trends and forget about the small steps.
Totally. So here's your challenge. Whether you're commuting to an office every day, working from your kitchen table, or, yeah, even dreaming of that Bali bungalow.
What's the challenge?
Think about how you can borrow from the remote work playbook, even if you're not fully remote.
I love that. What can you do to build more flexibility into your day, prioritize your well-being?
Yeah. Exactly. Take control of your work life. It's more possible than you might think. All right, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
This was great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, and thank you for listening. Until next time.